I'm Stacy Carton. My colleague for today's telecast is Joe Rainier. We have 5 top professionals this afternoon challenging for the first place and the top prize of $2,000. We had a field of 206 men entries. They bowled a 10-game qualifier. The top 30 were placed in 5 divisions of 6 each. The winners of the match play compose our field today. Let's look at how the matches shape up. The number 5 bowler from Baltimore, he has 2 tour victories to his credit, John Crunckleton. He'll meet the number 4 bowler from Laurel, Maryland, Ken Palmer. The winner of that match will meet the number 3 bowler from Baltimore. He has a tour title to his credit, Vic Lancelotta. The winner of that match will meet the number 2 bowler from Baltimore, Bill Honeycutt. And waiting in the wings, the number 1 seeded bowler from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. He has a tour championship, Gene Fierlit. We certainly have a tremendous field of bowlers in our top 5, Joe. How do you see these matches shaping up?
They're going to be great matches, Stacy. You have all the makings of an exciting afternoon of bowling. You have a lot of experience. You have 3 bowlers in the ladder who are very familiar with the conditions here. They bowl out of this house, and the scores have just been incredible all weekend, so we're going to have an exciting afternoon.
In the women's finals that just took place, they averaged slightly over 150 per game. What do you think the men will do?
Well, you have Gene Fierlit sitting on top in the ladder, who is, for 15 games this weekend, averaged 167, so we'll have to step back and see, but the pins are flying.
Yeah, we could see some tremendous scores. We'll have our opening match when we return. We're back at Greenway East, a beautiful bowling facility, 54 duckpin lanes. In fact, it's the largest facility of duckpins in the world. And we're ready for our opening match. And that will be John Crunckleton against Ken Palmer. Should be a very, very tight match, Joe.
Well, Stace, in the ladder, the 4th bowler in this case would choose whether he wants to lead off, bowl the first box, and then bowl the 10th box last. That would give him the hammer, so to speak, to throw the last ball. And that was, of course, John Crunckleton.
Okay, Ken Palmer will start it off on the left lane. After he bowls, John will then bowl 2 frames. And Ken starts off with a smashing strike.
And here we go, folks.
I think this will be the sign of things to come this afternoon. Ken is a very hard thrower, probably one of the hardest on the men's pro tour.
You have 2 very strong bowlers. You're going to find in the ladder today many styles, different speeds, finesse, power, the whole.
And John comes right back and matches him, so we're all even after 1 frame. As you can see from John's shirt, he's got 2 stars. He has won 2 tour stops in his short 5-year career. Currently, he carries a 149 average. Joe, last year, John was ranked 15th in the nation, 4th in Baltimore with a 145 average.
About 2 years ago, Stace, John Crunckleton had a string that just was incredible. When he went on the lanes, he was almost even money to walk away with a victory. He really put his game together.
He comes back, leaving the 7-8 split. 1981 was a very good year for John Crunckleton. He won 2 pro tours at Airway 32 in Rhode Island, at Holiday Lanes in Connecticut. He won the Fairlanes Recreation Inaugural and the Fairlanes Presidential Open, so he won 4 tournaments that season. Picks up the 7 pin, so he still has the 8 remaining.
His break in the second box was just a very unfortunate break. He put the ball right there. Matter of fact, he'd like to put the next 8 boxes of ball in the same place. It just was a very unfortunate break.
Okay, all 10 for John Crunckleton gives him 29 after 2 frames. Ken Palmer will come up in the second, working on a strike in the first frame.
The viewers will take notice, as hard as these men throw the ball, they're still shooting the object pin constantly after to hit the closest pin to them.
And he just gets that one to tip over, so Ken has got a double header, strikes in the first and second frame.
Duckpin magic.
Ken has really been touring as the bowler the past few years. He hasn't won a pro tour yet. He's come pretty close. He does have 4 other tournament wins to his credit. He's from Laurel, Maryland. Was ranked number 11th in the nation last year with a 148 average. Now, Ken spends a lot of time in a bowling center. He manages Fairlanes Marlow Heights in Temple Hills, Maryland. So he spends probably 99% of his time in a bowling center. And he's got a triple header. Ken Palmer could do this. He can turn on that type of scoring almost like a faucet. 2 years ago, he became at that time just the second man in the Duckpin game to bowl a 600 set. He had a 601. The highest Duckpin set ever is 655. This is the 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic. First prize, $2,000. Second prize, $1,000.
John chopped through the middle, leaving the 2, 8, 6, and 10. And again, he's going to shoot the object pin. He's got to make something happen. Kenny is definitely out and running. I'd like to remind the viewers that there is a $10,000 prize to the bowler who would break the men's world record one game, which is 266. And at this point, Kenny Palmer is going along at a 300 clip.
And that record is shared by 2 people. That's Robert Farr and Dick Westlake. Dick did it last summer. The 266, an awful lot of bowling, Joe.
Well, it's only been done twice, so that speaks for itself. Needless to say, John is in the hole. He is... Kenny just hasn't made a mistake. He's got 30. He's got 50 working in the second box, so he's 30 to 35 pins ahead of John at this time. But John has the capabilities of turning this thing around and doing the identical thing that Kenny did in the first 3 boxes, and we'll just have to wait and see. John don't know he's defeated yet.
No, that's for sure. John's a 35-year-old. He is from Baltimore, and he's the proprietor of the Brooklyn Lanes. And he comes up with a strike. Important strike for John Crunckleton in the 4th frame. And that will bring up Ken Palmer. He's got a string of 3 going. I'd like to correct myself. John is the proprietor of the Edgemere Lanes, not Brooklyn. I'm sure the owner of the Brooklyn Lanes would have been surprised to hear that. Okay, Ken Palmer, 3 strikes in a row, 4th frame. Well, that breaks the string. Leaves himself a fairly makeable spare shot.
3, 5, 6, and 10. He's going to shoot the 3-pin. He really isn't bothered at what side he hits it on.
He chops right through.
He just didn't want to do that. That's the only thing could hurt him. In this game, we tend to want to shoot a pin, 1 pin, our object. We picked that out, and in that case, it was a 3-pin, and it was unfortunate he hit it full in the face.
And a 9 for Ken Palmer in the 4th. He's got a total of 82. Crunckleton has 48 plus in the 4th, so a pretty sizable lead right now for Ken Palmer. But we still have a long way to go. If you were with us for the ladies' matches, you could see that the game could turn around at any moment. And he leaves himself that same break. He must be doing something that's consistent at least.
Well, the difference, Stace, is he's not getting the ball out in front of him. The ball is coming out of his hand a little early, and he's losing the revolutions on it, so he's not mixing.
And that time he came a little bit closer. He leaves the 10-pin. So this would be 2 open frames in a row for Ken after starting off with a triple header. Give a little bit of breathing room now to John Crunckleton to try to catch up.
Well, John's a very explosive bowler, and he has the ability to turn this thing around. Just for instance, if he would go spare strike in the 5th, 6th, he's going to be 58, 78 in the 5th, and he's within 14 pins. So 2 open boxes in a row is something that we always try to stay away from.
In his career, John has had a high game of 240, a 3-game set of 559. And he leaves himself just a terrible split, not the kind of ball he'd want in an effort to try to catch up here in the middle of the game.
The 1, 3, 4, and 9, it's makeable. I tell you, in Greenway Bowl East, anything is makeable for these pro bowlers. The pins just are flying so well that John he wanted that a little bad. He knew he needed a big count or a doubleheader,
and he picks that up beautifully again. There's some of that Duckpin magic. You throw a ball hard enough with enough spin on it and get the right pin action, you're going to make those kind of shots.
I tell you, Stace, it just gets more incredible if these guys are as excited as I am watching. We don't know what's liable to happen.
These guys are the best. You're watching the top professional bowlers just showing the skills that we wish we all had. Unfortunately, there are a select few, but everybody can bowl and have a good time at it. Comes back and almost picks up a strike, leaves a 7-pin standing.
He's within 15 pins,
Right.
Stacy. He's made a game out of this.
Reduced it substantially.
He's made a game out of it. He realizes he's playing his game. He's an experienced bowler. And the game's not over till the game's over, as they say.
As Yogi Berra used to say.
Yes.
And John misses that spare shot. That could be crucial. We'll find out, certainly, as the game progresses.
He may have gotten a little anxious at time, and the corner pins are probably our toughest pins. You have to execute. You have to exaggerate your execution a little further, as he made his correction and picked up the 10, but that was a very big spare that he let get away.
John qualified after the 10 games. He had a 15.69. He was 13th. That's a 156 average. Here's Ken Palmer up in his 6th frame. And he comes back with a solid shot. This pin just rolls off the back. So he's got certainly an easy spare shot right now. And he picks up the spare. You can see Ken concentrating and breathing in and out, getting himself ready. He didn't rush at all.
I bowled with John Crunckleton yesterday in the 10-game qualifier, and believe it or not, as hard as John throws the ball, I commented to him after about a game and a half that it appeared to me he was overthrowing the ball because things weren't breaking for him. And this morning he stopped me and thanked me. He said, "Joe, I slowed it up, and over the last 5 games he averaged over 165.
And there's a strike for Ken. He certainly got enough action on that toss, and he's going to put himself back into a comfortable lead, depending on how John Crunckleton fares.
He has a 25-pin lead in the 6th box, and there again was a shot of a little duckpin magic. You pick your target out, line yourself up, square your shoulders, and try to get as much on the ball as you can, and it makes these things happen.
Since you helped John yesterday, maybe he'll share part of his prize winnings with you.
Well, thank you was enough. I enjoy. He'll return the favor one of these days.
And he comes up with a strike. Neither bowler, of course, refusing to give up. It's anybody's game. Crunckleton has 97 plus in the 7th. Palmer has 122 plus in the 7th.
The bowlers have bowled 7 boxes apiece, 14 boxes, and we've had 7 strikes. And we used to keep this statistic in the Baltimore Pro League, a group of about 60 very good bowlers in the Baltimore area, and no one averaged over 1 strike a game for an entire season. And here you have Ken Palmer with 4 this game and Crunckleton with 3.
Okay, Crunckleton working on a strike. He's in his 8th frame. Picks up 5 pins. He's still counting.
He hit the pin he shot at, Stace. He hit his object, but he had a little less extension. If you watch,
he'll try to pick up this difficult spare. Almost gets it. Leaves 1 pin standing. And you can see John is certainly dejected, somewhat confused as to why he can't get some better hits.
well, Stace, when he got up to bowl the 8th frame, he knew he had to put the ball there and break 8, 9, or hopefully a doubleheader. And I think he was upset at himself because he didn't execute it as he's capable of executing.
Okay, Crunckleton 115 after 8. Palmer entering the 8th. He's got 122, and he's counting on a strike in the 7th frame.
The thing is to do in these head-to-head matches is maintain the consistency of your speed and your delivery.
Comes up with another strike. It's really amazing to see how the pins can really go back and forth across the lanes like that, and that's where he's getting majority of his good hits at.
Well, he's putting the ball where he wants it, and Kenny gets a lot on it. If you watch the extension of his follow-through and where the ball is released in his delivery, it's out in front of him, he's trajecting the ball out onto the lane, and he's just getting so many revolutions that
You can
see
really
where his hand is at as he's releasing the ball, and the ball is out over the foul line.
Okay, Ken getting ready. In 8 boxes, he's got 5 strikes, a spare, and 2 opens. Now, he leaves himself a tough spot right there. But Ken's not the kind of guy that will upset. He'll come back. He'll fight that off. Ken has a goal. As I mentioned, he hasn't won any tours yet, but he hopes to be Bowler of the Year one day on the Pro Tour. Still has a 7 pin standing. So Ken sets his sights high, wants to be number one.
Well, Stacy, at this point in this game, Kenny has 169, and the best John can do if he strikes out, which would be 4 strikes in a row, would be 175, which would put Kenny on a 7-box. So I like Kenny's chances at this point.
Yes, I would say just keep the ball in play, and he's got it wrapped up.
It was an unusual game with both bowlers to this point only making
a strike for Crunckleton, so he's still doing the best that he can.
Well, he's going to post his score, and, you know, he's just a little upset with the one pitch he made. I'm sure he'll go in the back when this game's over, and no one will have to tell him where he made his mistake. But it's very unusual. We have 2 spares in 18 boxes, and the bowlers they just have the pins moving so well. The conditions here are ideal, and it just is a snowball effect. And, you know, the bowlers are just so pumped up that the scores are just going to keep climbing.
Oh, he leaves a tough 7-8.
Yeah, John had the same split twice. He had it in the 2nd box and the 10th box, and they never help you. He's going to have a respectable game. 140. If he shoots one of these, he'll shoot 142 game.
Ken Palmer will be the winner. He doesn't even have to really roll the last ball just to get his pins, to give him his final score. And Crunckleton finishes with a very, very fine 142. Palmer already has 169 going into the last frame. So again, he wants to keep his momentum, not lose his concentration, be ready for the next match.
Quite often in this situation, Stace, a bowler will make a mistake. He's in the ladder. He's going to advance to the next game. He knows he's won this game, and you can lose your concentration because you're bowling what seems as a needless box. See, Kenny's hand is coming through the ball so strong. He's got that lift at the last minute, and he's on a high right now.
Hey, he picks up his spare. He has 179 plus whatever he gets on this ball.
Going to shoot in the mid-80s, mid to high 80s.
Ken does average 148, so you can see that he is significantly over his average. And he strikes in his last ball, so Kenny finishes with a 189. Our opening match is complete. Ken Palmer defeats John Crunckleton 189 to 142. We'll return for our quarterfinals match right after this. The exclusive live coverage of the Lacrosse International at Homewood Field, June 9th through 12th at 6 and 8:30 p.m. See the clash of champions and all-star lacrosse players. That's Lacrosse International on KBL-TV 10. Joe, we've seen some exciting bowling, and I know that week will be very exciting lacrosse competition. So if anybody has a chance, get out to Homewood Field or watch it on KBL-TV 10. Our next match, Ken Palmer advances, and he'll meet the number 3 bowler, Vic Lancelotta. What do you know about Vic, Joe?
I know that Vic is known as being very tough for the dollar. The man bowls one night a week. He bowls here at Greenway East, so he's very familiar with the playing conditions. He's a very confident bowler. He's loose, and we have quite a contrast in styles with Kenny, as we just seen. The man shot 189. He threw 5 strikes, 6 strikes if you count he's counting the 10th box. So he's a power-type bowler to Vic, who is a very finesse-type bowler, one of the slowest men in the game.
Not even a contrast in style, but also age. Ken Palmer is 24. Vic Lancelotta is 61 years old. Ken starts off getting 9 on his first ball. But it is something when a guy can bowl one night a week and maintain the average that he does. He does carry a 142, and that's pretty good shooting for one night a week. And Ken starts off with a spare. So he's maintaining his hot hand.
This is where we're going to be able to see that Ken Palmer, the power bowler, moves pins around. But Vic will move pins just as well because he gets a lot of revolutions on the ball. As you can see, they jump like he threw it as hard as Kenny.
And he leaves a solid 10. Vic Lancelotta is from Ellicott City. Originally, he was from Warwick. He moved down here, and he got involved in the game of duckpins. He's been bowling as a pro for 25 years. And he picks up the spare, so we're all even after one game.
If we could learn anything from Vic, it would be the fact that he is so relaxed. If you watch him, he keeps his shoulders square to the line. He has a short backswing as opposed to Kenny's long backswing, where Kenny's shoulders, as we term, sort of open up. They turn from the foul line. and he gets them back in place in time to throw the ball very effectively. Now, if we'll get a chance to watch Vic, and he's square to the line, down, and he just finesses the ball out onto the lane.
And leaves himself a 7-pin, so he gets a good break there. Gives him 19 in the first frame. Besides having a Pro Tour victory to his credit, Vic also won the Evening Sun Championship in 1978, and that used to be a major event in Baltimore. And he misses that spare going for the 7-pin. What happened on that one, Joe?
Stacy, he lost the ball in his swing, meaning that the ball come out of his hand probably 6 to 8 inches before he wanted it to, and therefore it was just misdirected. Very unusual for Vic. He's steady. He's probably one of the better spare shooters in the game.
And Ken leaves himself the 7-pin, so they're all even in the first box, 19 apiece. Ken probably has a lot of things on his mind. He recently became engaged, and he'll be married this fall, so I'm sure he's thinking about that and how maybe the $2,000 first place could come in handy. And he gets a spare. In fact, I saw Ken's fiance during the match, and she's probably waiting, ready to grab the check in case he does win. $2,000 first place, $1,000 second. It's the 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic, and this is one stop on the Duckpin Professional Bowlers Association Tour, an organization that's celebrating its 20th anniversary. And again, he leaves. He gets a strike. I was ready to say that he left it. That is power that certainly describes that shot. That pin almost came out of heaven. You've heard of pennies from heaven. How about pins from heaven?
Yeah, I'm sure Kenny knows that's where it came from.
And Vic, who doesn't throw the ball as hard, but he's still getting these good breaks. He leaves himself the 7-pin again. Now, last frame he had that break, and he just went, well, probably half a foot to the right. Let's see if he can regain his composure and make this spare.
Well, that's the importance of the third ball, Stace. He hit that pin in the last box with the third ball, so therefore he knows he's made his adjustment, and
he just got that one. It looked like he was almost worried that it might scoop by, but he did pick it up. After 3 frames, Ken Palmer's got 49 plus, a strike working in the third. Vic Lancelotta, 39 plus, a spare in the third.
Vic is in perfect position. If you watch the position, his shoulders are square, the hands coming through the ball. He's got it out in front of him, deep knee bend. He's perfect position.
And he's got his 3rd straight 7-pin. Why would he keep leaving the 7-pin? What could be happening in his delivery and the way the pins are being hit?
Well, Stacy, he's so good at throwing the ball the same way every time that he could turn these into strikes. It's just a matter of the pin coming off the rubber in the right direction.
And he misses this one. Again, a crucial shot. The ball just scooting by the 7-pin.
Very unusual for Vic. Very, very, very unusual.
And he gets all his wood, which is important.
Vic has broken 4 singles, and he probably is a 95% shooter on singles, and he, at this point, is at 50%. So, experience or not, head-to-head does tighten things up a little bit.
And Kenny leaves himself a good break. So he's been getting good breaks in every box. In the 10-game qualifier yesterday, Ken qualified 9th. He had 1598, which is a 159 average. He does carry a 148 average, his highest league average.
Kenny's rolling along very good at this point. He looks very confident. Of course, he's watched Vic make a couple mistakes, and this only adds to his confidence.
In the 4th frame, Ken Palmer 69 plus. He's got a spare working. Vic Lancelotta has 58 after 4. Ken really represents the new breed of the Duckpin bowlers, more of a power bowler than finesse. And he's got himself another strike. You know, Ken is certainly coming up with enough strikes. That's Ken's 2nd strike in this game.
He's 8th strike in 15 boxes. That's incredible.
Oh, 50% almost.
It's going to be hard to keep up with if he keeps up that percentage of strikes.
And Vic chops and leaves himself just a terrible break. He did have...
He's left a 379. Now, Victor is very accurate bowler. He's going to shoot the 3-pin. You need to get the pin off the wall. He can chop the 3-9, getting both hitting the 3 flush, or he can get the 3 off of either wall. Oh, he did exactly what he wanted to do.
You called that, Joe. You forecast that ball accurately.
Just a little bit of bad luck. There's no more he could have done. He did the best he could. He slid the pin over, and as I said, Vic is a very accurate bowler, and the 2 singles, I think he would rattle anybody at this point. He's got to get himself back together, and again, not bowl against Ken Palmer, bowl against the pins.
And just to show you how important the divisional match play is, after the 10-game qualifier, Vic was number 25. He had a 15.36, which is a 153 average. Has himself, again, a very makeable spare.
Yes.
And entering today's match play, as I mentioned, he was 25th. After the match play, he found himself in the 3rd position. So he did some awful good bowling this morning. And he picks up that spare. Ken Palmer up in his 6th frame now. He's got 89 plus in the 5th. On a strike. Almost picks up another strike. Ken is getting the ball in the pocket every time. He couldn't ask to bowl any better than he is. Being very consistent.
Oh, he just shot 189, and he's going along at just about the same clip, maybe a little better.
And he picks up that spare. The Ken's got an all-mark game going, which they're not too common. To get a strike or a spare in every box is a very, very good accomplishment.
I tell you, Stace, you just made a good point. There are many bowlers in the game today, pros, that would trade a 200 game for 10 marks. They have 200 games, but they've never rolled an all-mark game.
And he's got a strike. So we are seeing a tremendous exhibition on the part of Ken Palmer.
Kenny's doing everything right. Look at Kenny's hand. He's coming all the way through. He's lined up perfectly. His foot square to the foul line. He's just bowling superbly.
Vic trying to come back, leaves himself a split that he should be able to convert into a spare.
At this point, Stace, I don't think spares are going to be quite enough.
And he picks it off. Excellent.
As I said, he is a super spare shooter. The 2 singles would have made quite a difference in his game. And nobody knows it better than Vic. He let him get away, and of course, as he let those singles stand on the lane, it also pumped Kenny up a little more, because Kenny knows he's stroking. You know, the man is on his game.
And Vic will have to try to muster up all his energy and throw some strikes here. And again, close. Vic, as we have seen this game, is hitting the pocket, but leaving. He had 3 7-pins in a row, and now he leaves this pin up.
He's shot 5 singles. He has left 5 singles, and he's getting the ball where he wants it.
And he's got that head on, so no doubt about that spare. He wasn't going to let that one slide by. Okay, Ken Palmer coming up in his 8th frame. He's got 7 marks in a row, 3 strikes, and 4 spares. He's got 129 plus in the 7th. And again, he almost gets a strike. Ken is throwing the ball extremely well.
Putting everyone in the same place, isn't he, Stace?
That's exactly right.
With the power and speed that Ken puts on the ball, it's just amazing to a person like myself or Vic Lancelotta or some of the bowlers that throw the ball a little slower, how accurate they can be.
And he picks up that spare. And Ken does have a rooting set.
Kenny's in position. His hand's coming up in front of him every pitch. He's very fluid at this point.
And a 35-pin lead, which at this point in the game is very, very safe. And he leaves the 10-pin.
The epitome of duckpin bowling right now, I tell you, Stace. I'm glad I'm sitting here and not in Vic's seat at this point.
Well, like many sports, you want to do the same thing over and over and concentrate on the fundamentals of the game, and that's what Ken's doing.
I tell you, the amazing part, Stacy, is he's made 5 singles this game, along with his 3 strikes. And all the singles he's hit, he's covered the whole pin.
And Vic comes back with a strike. Let's say what if, Joe? What if Vic had made those 5 singles? What would the difference here be?
Well, he made 3 of them, so he would have had about 17 more pins, and the game would have been 158 to 141, and no one knows that better than Vic. And he's on a strike in the 9th box. If he threw a doubleheader, we'd have had a match. But at this point, Vic can strike out. He can shoot 184. Kenny has 168. So Kenny would need like 6, 7, 1, and 10 out to beat him, even if Vic did throw a 4-bagger.
And he chops there, so I think that may just be the icing on the cake.
Kenny will go up the ladder. There's no doubt. Kenny is the winner.
Right.
You know, you take notice, Vic Lancelotta with that 5 count is 139, and he just got 9 out. He shot 148, a very respectable game, 6, 7 pins over his average, and
the difference is that Ken Palmer carries 148 average, and he's beating the heck out of that. So there's the difference.
The man's got 9 marks in a row. We got a chance to see a rare thing. It would be nice. Well, he's left a 3, 5, and 10, and he's going to shoot the object. He knows he has the game won, so perhaps he won't shoot it with the intensity. But he also knows he has a 10-mark all-mark game.
And he's got it.
Hey,
an all-mark game for Kent Palmer. Beautiful bowling. He has gotten a spare or a strike in every frame for 10 frames. So right now he's got 188 plus, whatever he gets on this ball.
I guess Crunckleton thought he bowled a good game against him, and he's going to beat that. This is incredible. What an afternoon of bowling.
Kent should be in the 90s, the 190s. 7 on gives him a 195. An all-mark game for Kent Palmer.
He's only averaging about 193 to this point, Stace, and that is just simply incredible.
So in our quarterfinal match, Kent Palmer defeats Vic Lancelotta 195 to 148, and there again is an example of Kent Palmer reaching out, getting the ball down the lane. We'll return with our semifinal match right after this message. It's the 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic. It's our men's division. Kent Palmer has won his first 2 matches. We'll now go into the semifinals against Bill Honeycutt. Now, Joe, how will Bill feel? He's just witnessed 2 incredible games. Ken had a 189 and a 192. I'd like to correct that score from last game, was 192. What's going through Ken's mind, through Bill's mind, rather?
Well, what should be going through his mind is I'm going to bowl the pins. I'm not going to bowl Kenny Palmer. You know, and bowl your game. If he bowls against Kenny Palmer instead of the pins, he's going to be in trouble because Kenny's stroking the ball.
Okay, Bill Honeycutt from Baltimore, and he starts off with a strike.
I'd like to point out, Stace, that Bill is what we term a house bowler, meaning that he bowls in a couple leagues out of this house. He's very comfortable in his house, and he is like Vic. He has a few more miles per hour speed on the ball, but he is a finesse bowler.
Kent Palmer had a all-mark game, 10 consecutive marks. And he's going to have trouble coming over the mark on this shot to keep his streak alive.
And pointing out, Stace, he finished his first game with a spare and a strike, so he actually rolled 12 straight marks. He's only had 3. He's bowled 20 boxes and made 17 marks, so there's not much more the man can do.
That's 85%. Now there I guess he's entitled to miss once in a while, isn't he?
Well, he'd rather not. You don't want to start out in the hole, and he's, you know, now he's behind. You know, you could shake his confidence at this point, and this is what Bill, by throwing that strike, Kenny's going to realize I'm behind. I haven't been in this position before, but he's a very explosive bowler, and in that box, he's not going to let it bother him. He's just stroking the ball so well. He's
got 9 after the first, and certainly by not coming up with the spare, he's going to be in the hole to start with. And there's another difficult spare shot that he's going to have to attempt.
I don't know if Kenny realizes it, but he did. He forced that ball. If you note on the monitor, his hand did come through a little further. He forced that ball, and this is why he didn't get the pin action. He didn't get the revolutions on the ball. He threw it a little harder, and it didn't have time to turn over.
Good try on that. He couldn't come up with it. Is it possible that he may be getting tired and trying to compensate and throw a little bit harder?
Well, I think just the opposite. He's so pumped up, the adrenaline's flowing, and he doesn't realize. You don't feel it. You know, he's so strong at this point that it's very easy for him. He has a fluid motion. He has a long arm swing, and the ball, it's hard to turn the corner.
All right, Bill Honeycutt, ranked second in Baltimore last year, 19th nationally. He currently carries a 153 average, his best league average.
Stacy's left the 3-9-10, a very tough spare. I would say maybe 3 out of 10 times. He's going to try to hit the 3-pin, of course, his object, and he's going to need a little help off the wall, off the rubber, the side rubber.
In his career, Bill has had a 252 game, which isn't too far up that world record, and he's had a 558 set.
And a little bit of tough luck. He hit half of the 3-pin, and the ball went through the hole. Had that ball deflected off of the 3 a little more, it could have kissed the 10 off the rubber into the 9. So, again, you just try to keep hitting objects. Now, that was... he could have had a nice lead had he counted and spared, and now it's within 7 pins, so we have a match.
All right, 2 frames. Bill Honeycutt has 26. Ken Palmer has 19. Bill lives in Baltimore now. He's originally from North Carolina. It's the first time that Ken Palmer has not had the lead. He's in his 3rd game. He won the opening match and the quarterfinals match, so finding himself in a position he hasn't been accustomed to yet, behind. And Bill leaves himself a terrible break on that one, Joe.
Yes, he's left the 2-4 on the left and the 3-10 again on the right. So he's going to play this box to get 10 out of it. He's going to throw 2 balls, one at the 2-4, whichever his preference. He may shoot the 2-pin or the 3. Most bowlers do have a side that they feel more comfortable or that they feel they get more pins off of the right wall or the left.
And he picks up the spare. We have seen some incredible spares made. Again, a tremendous display of a shot that seemed almost impossible, and he comes up with it.
Incredible under these tense situations, the pressure, and to be that accurate. He didn't get anything off the wall. He actually slid that shot over, Stace.
Now, Ken looks like he's back in form. He does leave the 7-pin standing. So an important frame for Ken Palmer. This is the semifinal match. The winner of this will go on to meet the #1 bowler, Gene Fierlit, shooting for $2,000 first prize. Ken picks up his spare. $2,000 to the winner, $1,000 to the runner-up.
Yes. John Crunckleton finished 5th. He received $325, and Vic Lancelotta was 4th, just defeated by Ken Palmer, received $400. The loser of this match will receive $600.
And Ken chops, and again, here's an example where he's going to have to try to get 10 pins. Unless he can come up with some wizardry.
I'm not going to put my neck on the limb. I said that the last time, and the man made the shot, so.
Oh, this could be a disastrous frame for Ken. He's got to get some wood. He's got 33 in the 3rd. Bill Honeycutt has 36 plus a spare counting in the 3rd.
This could be the turning box, Stace. You just made a good point. I mean, with the pins that are setting, he could pick another one, which would give him a 6 box. So
no, he comes up with 8. He does salvage that. Honeycutt now in a chance to open up a little bit of a lead. He's on a spare in the 3rd. And of course, he can add to that if he can mark in the 4th, and then he'll bowl his 5th frame as well.
It's such a fine line between how Kenny was bowling and what he's doing at this point. You know, personally, I think he's just forcing the ball a little bit, and Bill, being an experienced bowler as he is just applying the pressure.
And there was no doubt about that strike. They went down simultaneously. In the 10-game qualifier, Bill qualified 22nd. He averaged 153 per game.
Bill is very comfortable in this house. He knows a lot of people. It's like being in his own backyard. And I do believe that this is an edge.
So you would say that sometimes there is sort of a home lane advantage then?
Well, the crowd, you get the crowd behind you and it can...
He comes up with another strike. So Bill Honeycutt developing a hot hand, whereas Ken Palmer was getting all the marks in the first 2 games. He's had 3 opens in his first 4 frames. Honeycutt, on the other hand, has had 4 marks in 5 frames.
This is the first time today that Kenny has had this type of pressure applied to him. Bill jumped out, and he's now in a commanding lead.
And Kenny comes back with a strike, so he's showing some of that competitive spirit.
Equal to the task, huh? He's very explosive, and strikes, well, we've seen at 2 games, you know, the number of strikes that the man threw, so
Ken looking for his first tour title. He's won some major events. He won the Fairlanes Men's Open at Westview. He's won the Gully Open, the Ray Webb Memorial Open here at Greenway, and the Jimmy Deach Classic at Fairlanes Prince George's. So he's taken home some money in the past.
And the winner's circle isn't strange to him. He knows how to win.
Leaves himself a good spare opportunity. We've noticed, Joe, I guess most of the bowlers that have a very high backswing. What would you recommend to youngsters just starting out as far as the kind of backswing they should have?
Well, of course, at a young age, they can't bring the ball back too far. They're going to lose it. But it's whatever's comfortable. You know, there's no one particular way to execute or to play this game. Very good, Kenny.
Kenny gets a spare, so he's keeping it close. And again, even though Bill Honeycutt is working on 2 strikes, anything can happen.
Well, Bill has Kenny in a position where Kenny just can't afford any mistakes at this point. He's put the pressure on him that every ball is very important, and this is a big ball. This is the biggest ball of the match.
Almost gets a triple, leaves the 10-pin standing.
Bill gets a lot of revolutions on the ball. If you watch at his release, he gets a lot of snap on the ball. He gets a lot of what we call right-hand turn, which would be a curve ball going from right to left, and it really moves the pins. He's very effective.
Shooting for a 10-pin, and he picks it up.
He now has a 34-pin lead, Stace. Again, we've seen it turn around. The doubleheader, the strike is a powerful weapon, and Kenny definitely carries that weapon with him.
And there you see that Honeycutt has a very comfortable 34-pin lead, each of them working on a spare in this 6th frame. How about the balls themselves, Joe? Do most of the pros use the maximum weight permitted?
It really varies. It really varies. There's only 2 sizes of the maximum weight of a ball is 3 pounds 12 ounces. Now, I think Bill does throw around a 312, and I'm sure Kenny does also. I would say 75 to 80% of the pro bowlers do use the 312. I've always felt that the pins know more of the weight of the ball than the bowler. You're only talking a couple ounces, but it's effective.
And Bill chops that pin. There was a good chance for Bill to really open up a big lead if he could have converted that into a spare. Now he gives a little more breathing room to Ken Palmer. And he gives up some important wood on that shot. Could have picked up a couple more pins to add to his lead. Let's see how Ken takes advantage of this.
The psychological effect of a ball like that on the opponent, you just don't know what it weighs. I tell you, Stace, it can pump the other guy up, and Kenny's very capable of getting pumped up. This is a big ball. It's a big ball. It can switch the momentum. Oh. Well, Kenny's left the 5-10, and Kenny has left the 5-10, and he knows he is right now in a position where he has to shoot this. So he's going to shoot the left side of the 5, hoping to slide it in. He hit it all, so we didn't get the spare.
Had an interesting note just handed me, just something worth noting, that Ken, in the first 2 games, he just picked up this pair, had a 381 total. Earl Anthony bowled 2 games in the PBA yesterday, and he had a 378. So who says that there isn't high scores in Duckpins?
Duckpin magic. No one will say it now, will they, Stace?
Okay, Ken has 89 in the 7th, down by 29 pins to Bill Honeycutt's 118. And he gave his all on that, trying to come up with the strikes, but he leaves the 7-pin.
Well, he knows he needs strikes now, Stace. 30 pins in 3 boxes break it down, is 10 pins a box, and it's tough to pick up 10 pins a box with spares.
He picks up that spare, so he's still making the marks that he has to. Honeycutt will step up for his 8th frame. Honeycutt's been bowling quite a long time. He's been involved in Duckpin bowling for 21 years. He's originally from North Carolina, but now he makes his home in Baltimore. And he leaves an identical 7-pin standing.
Bill's very relaxed. He knows he has a nice lead, and he's just, as we would say, keeping the ball in play. He wants to keep the ball on the object pin, just not make any bad pitches and not have any more 7 boxes like he had.
Bill was ranked second in Baltimore last year. He had a 146 average. And he picks up his pair. So he maintains the kind of lead that he has to win it. The number one bowler, been waiting in the wings, practicing a little bit, Gene Fierlit from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. This is the 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic. First place, $2,000. Second place, $1,000. And we've seen high scores and just awesome bowling displays today, men and women.
Bill averages 152 in the league at Greenway Bowl East, this particular house. So again, I'd like to mention he's very confident here.
Comes up with a good spare opportunity on that shot. Almost left a split. Got enough action to leave just one pin up. The most that Ken Palmer could bowl if he got strikes the rest of the way would be a 169. Bill Honeycutt, after 8, has 137, and a very good opportunity to get a spare here. And he picks up that spare. So Bill Honeycutt has had 7 marks out of his 9 frames. We've seen an extraordinarily high percentage of marks per frames rolled.
If Ken Palmer doesn't throw a strike, I believe the match is over.
Well, he's come close several times. Again, he leaves a pin up and almost spoke too soon, but he does have 9 down. Again, another good opportunity for a spare. Ken is down 29 pins after 8 frames. The most that Ken could bowl would be a 158. And he picks up that spare.
I was wrong, Stacy. He's not out of it, but definitely this ball must be a strike. If he triples in the 10th, as you said, he'll have 158. Bill Honeycutt has 147 plus. Well, we have a winner, Stacy. We do have a winner.
Bill Honeycutt will advance to the finals, where he'll meet Gene Fierlit. A little hard for Ken to maintain that tremendous pace that he had. He averaged 190 the first 2 games. And he'll fall short of that this game.
You just saw an example of how that spare could be made, though. It can be slid over or it can be bounced out of the pit, which he just bounced it out. It just was a little misdirection.
Well, Ken finishes with a very fine 136. So Bill Honeycutt will advance. Just a matter of him bowling this last frame. And should be, again, an exciting match between Bill Honeycutt and Gene Fierlit. Again, almost another strike. We have seen as much action on the pins as you would want to see.
They've been flying all weekend, Stacy. This is just incredible.
The cut yesterday, the top 30, the 30th bowler averaged 152. Gives you an idea of the kind of scores we had.
Actually, 1 pin short of 53, and that's incredible. That's a lot of bowling for 10 games. A lot of spares.
Bill Honeycutt will finish with a game in the 170s. So again, we'll see how old Mo comes into play, whether momentum will carry over for him, or whether Gene Fierlit, who's had a chance to rest, will have the advantage. And he finishes with a fine 175. Bill Honeycutt has defeated Ken Palmer 175 to 136 in our semifinals. Professional Duckpin Championship action continues in a moment. Greenway East, the 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic. It's our men's division, and we're set for the finals. In this match, it will be Bill Honeycutt, who is seeded number 2. He just defeated Ken Palmer. He's meeting the number 1 seed, Gene Fierlit from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. How about Gene Fierlit, Joe?
It's a very fluid bowler, a powerful ball, much to the likes of Kenny Palmer. We should have quite a match. Bill, apparently, he just showed us he's on his game. 175. Gene, for his 15 games here this weekend, has averaged 167, so should be a good final match.
Starts off with a devastating chop, certainly not the kind of way you want to open a game. He's going to have to go for his wood in this frame. And chops again, so he's gotten 4 pins after 2 balls. He's going to have to try to salvage this frame.
Very important frame, Stacy. It's the foundation,
and he comes up with 8. So considering what he started with, That's not a bad frame. Little dejection, of course, on the part of Gene. Phil Honeycutt now certainly with a chance in the first frame to do some psychological as well as some pin damage in his beginning. Leaves himself a pretty difficult split to convert as well. Honeycutt just defeated Ken Palmer, 175 to 136. This is the finals of our 4th annual Miller High Life Duckpin Classic. $2,000 to the winner, $1,000 to the runner-up. And he converts that spare. Beautiful shot. He split those 2 pins just like he had to, Joe.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Bill has the finesse of the Vic Lancelotta, the accuracy, and they shoot the shots to slide, to make the shots that way, rather than the thrower, as we term the thrower, the bowler that throws the ball very hard. They'll shoot the object pin and hope that the bouncing around, you know, takes care of any splits. Bill, that should boost his confidence.
Would you say that Bill had somewhat of an advantage having just bowled a game and going into this, or did Gene have the advantage of rest?
Well, at this point, I would just say that the way Gene opened in the first box just gave Bill a boost. I don't know that bowling a game, Bill had to be high in confidence. He just shot 175, so would have a personal advantage, but I don't think it had any effect on Gene Fierlit. He's no stranger to the winner's circle either.
And Bill does have a very difficult shot to try to make. Almost picks it off. Honeycutt will try to pick up this wood for the 10 pins, and he's got it.
Gene Fierlit, who was our leader in the ladder, seated #1, he had his choice of whether to start and finish last or have Bill start, and he elected to start to get, I think, the psychological edge. I would have chosen, I think most bowlers.
And he comes up with a very important strike, and Gene, certainly an excellent bowler, carries a 147 average. He's ranked 10th in the state of Rhode Island. He's won a recent Pro Tour in 1977. And it's interesting to note, you know, most bowlers have their own equipment. Well, Gene, for some reason, is using house shoes and house balls.
No, I believe he has his bowling balls, but he definitely has house shoes.
And he picks up that spare. So it looks like he's warmed up a little bit.
This has happened all day, Stacy. You leave an opening and you go from being in front to behind. It's amazing. These head-to-head matches create fantastic situations.
Bill Honeycutt, 27 pins after 2 frames. Gene Fierlit, 38 plus in the 3rd. Bill trying for a strike. Might not get enough spin.
Come on, take it. All right, get at it now.
And of course, Bill can wait. He can wait for all those pins to stop spinning before he presses the deadwood. So he opted to wait and hoped that the pin would spin and move over and knock that 10 pin over.
They waited all weekend, Stace. The pins are falling so easy. The pins are moving.
And he misses that. Goes off into the channel on the right side.
Sometimes the waiting can throw your concentration off. It breaks your pace. This could have happened.
He comes back and does get the 10th pin. Honeycutt, 37 in the 3rd. Fierlit, 38 plus in the 3rd. So we should be a very close match all the way down.
They're bowling 1 game for $1,000. The winner taking $2,000 and second place being $1,000. So that's $100 a box, huh?
Yep, a lot to shoot for. And again, he almost comes up with the strike. Leaves a very, very, I don't want to say an easy spare shot because we've seen some singles miss, but it certainly should be a shot to his liking. And he does pick up the spare.
It's safe to say that singles are easy for these fellas. They say They're good bowlers. They shoot single pins, and I would say most of the pros shoot between 90-95% on singles. So.
And Fierlit comes up with a very tough 7-8 split.
A little bit of bad luck. That was a beautifully thrown ball. Things just didn't happen for him. He's going to shoot 1 and 1.
We've just learned that I mentioned that Gene Fierlit is wearing house shoes. About a week ago, he was robbed and somebody took his bowling shoes, so he didn't have a chance to buy a new pair.
Looks like they did him a favor.
That could be.
Greenway may have trouble getting his shoes back, huh?
After 4 frames, Bill Honeycutt has 47 plus. Gene Fierlit has 56.
I'm sure he'd much rather have his own bowling shoes, but it's a little hard to break a pair in and be comfortable with, you know, in a week if this robbery just happened last week.
And he comes up with a good spare shot. And again, he hit the object pin, and the other pins and the ball did the work. Bill Honeycutt coming up in the 5th frame.
You can see the pin is very close to the other pin. If it would touch it, he could, well, it didn't knock it over, so he has a split. He made this shot before.
Right, the only difference being that there's 1 pin up there on the left.
His object is the same. He's going to be shooting the 2-pin, and Bill, as I know him, a very accurate bowler and very confident. He's going to shoot to slide the 2 into the 6. So he has about an inch to shoot at down there on the number 2 pin. Very small target.
And he's got it. Beautiful shot by Bill Honeycutt. And
a little more duck pin magic. It's just phenomenal.
And we're as close as we could be without being tied. In the 5th frame, Bill Honeycutt, 65 plus, and Gene Fierlit, 66 plus. So we're about as close as we could be without being knotted up.
Stacy, we've watched it all day. We watched the first 2 games, and strikes were the name of the game. And now all of a sudden we've bowled 5 boxes apiece, and there's 1 strike, and they're making spares. It's incredible.
And he gets that strike. That's something that has eluded him this game. He finally comes up with the sought-after strike, and that could be a very big help to him. Of course, we'll see how Fierlit does in his next 2 frames. And he leaves the 7-pin.
We have a tie game, Stacy.
So we are tied. Now, if Fierlit makes this spare, then the only difference is that Honeycutt will be bowling on a strike. And he's got it. So the $2,000 prize money is causing these gentlemen to keep things as close as possible. In addition to winning a Pro Tour in 1977, Gene Fierlit has a couple other major events to his credit. He's a champion of the Harry Peters Open, and he also won the Eastern Classic in Connecticut. Gets a good 8 count, but this isn't as easy a shot as it looks, is it, Joe?
No, it's not. He has to hit every bit of the 2-pin. He has the 2-8, and as we call the 8 a sleeper. He has to cover the 2-pin with the ball, or he can be lucky and just touch the 2-pin and get it off the rubber, but we'd rather push it right through.
Well, he misses entirely. Gene Fierlit's got 93 in the 6, picks up another pin. He's got 102 in the 7.
Gene was a little upset with his first ball that box. I think had he taken another second to get his composure back, he rushed the line a little bit. His feet were a little fast on his first ball in that box, causing it to hang out to the right. He didn't get a chance. He didn't have the time to get his hand up in front of him.
Bill Honeycutt working on a strike in the 6th, 85 plus. And he chops.
That's the pressure of head-to-head bowling, Stacy.
That's right. We're coming down towards the end of the game. They want to get every pin they can.
He needs 8 out of this to tie in the 6th box, and 8 on and 9 out to tie. And he has his work cut out.
Well, he's back in a tie situation. They each have 93 in the sixth. So if Honeycutt picks up one here, he's tied after 7. If he gets both pins, he's got a 1-pin advantage.
He should take the lead.
And he does. 7 frames complete. Bill Honeycutt, a total of 103. Gene Fierlit, a total of 102. And you can always look back in the game and say, boy, if I would have made that 1 pin, it would have made the difference in the world.
We do it all the time, Stace. We do it all the time. It's just coming down to where the men are bowling 3 boxes for the star. You know, $1,000 of difference between first and second place, and it's going to be decided in these last 3 boxes.
Another chop, almost similar to the last frame that he had.
It's just a guided ball, Stace, as we term. He threw the ball well, but he's cutting it a little short. His extension has shortened a little. He's not getting his arm out in front of him quite as far. And it's very easy to do with the ball. The ball gets a little heavy at this point. He's going to play the 3 pins on the left, trying to slide them over or get them off the rubber. And he had the misfortune of hitting the 2 pin on the nose, and that's a disaster. Now he'll shoot the 3-6, the 2 pins on the right, trying to pick up as much wood as possible. Remember, he had a 1-pin lead.
Well, he comes out with 8, gives him 111 after 8 frames. So now Fierlit, who seems to have a big rooting section here, has a chance to build up a lead. There are quite a few people here this weekend from all over the duckpin country. Baltimore, certainly Washington, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Fierlit gets a strike.
Well, Stacy, that was a very pivotal box, and Bill made the mistake of going through the middle. As I pointed out before, 2 open boxes in a row are always trouble, and Bill just had 2 open boxes, and Gene just jumped up and he took advantage of the situation, the sign of a true pro. You know, you keep giving the man the opportunity, and he's going to get you sooner or later. So
now, if Gene can come up with a good count,
very
even
important.
a mark, will really put the pressure on Bill, who only has 2 frames remaining.
Very important box. This first ball, very important.
Very close to a double. Still counting. He's got 9 down.
He had the pins moving. He wanted that strike bad. I guarantee his heart was pumping when he let go of that ball.
Picks up the spare. Gives him an 11-pin lead after 8, plus he's got a spare working in the 9th.
The spare is very important, Stacy. He has his, and Bill, you know, even though he's only 11 behind, he doesn't have his mark in the 9th yet.
Right. Now, it would be up to Bill to turn the tables. He would have to pick up a couple marks here, put the pressure back on Gene.
One more, come on.
All the pin action in the world. Now, he knows, Bill Honeycutt knows he needs a spare, and he, being the finesse shooter that he is, very accurate bowler. He's going to shoot the 5-pin, trying to slide it into the 10. So he's going to shoot the left side of the 5, and this is a must shot.
Right there.
He makes it.
Believe this? Do you believe this?
All right, drop that first one in there, Bill.
Joe, he must have a wireless
Drop that first one in there, Bill.
going to him because he took your advice exactly, slid the pin over. And again, there's another example of what seems impossible spare shots, and they're being made.
Well, Gene Fierlit, I'd like to point out, selected to bowl first in this match, which allowed him to finish last. Now, Bill can turn this match around. He can put the pressure on Gene Fierlit.
But this is what it's all about. We're seeing the best duckpin bowlers, high scorers, tremendous skills. Comes back with a good 9 count. Certainly he wanted the strike.
What a finish. You don't necessarily need the 180s or 90s to have the excitement in duckpin bowling, do you?
That's for sure. It's a game for everybody, whether you're a professional, amateur, you can all have fun at it.
I tell you, I haven't been there so many times myself and never collected this star. I got goosebumps myself. It's just incredible.
And he picks up the spare. So that gives him 140 plus here in the final frame. So he's just going to try to get the best count that he can.
Well, he's looking for an 8, 9, 10 count, a good fill, because then he's putting Gene Fierlit on a big count himself. Watch the score. We have a situation where Gene Fierlit has 132 plus in the 9th. Bill Honeycutt has 140 plus in the 10th. So this is a very big ball, a very big ball. He's going to put Gene on a count, meaning his first ball, he just can't chop the middle or throw a stray ball that's going to give him a 5 or 6 count, or he's going to lose the match.
That's exactly right. Oh, he gets it. He gets the strike out of that.
Duckpin magic, Stacy. Do you believe this match? Look at the people.
Everybody excited about that shot.
Do you believe this match? Gene Fierlit now needs at least 8 on this first ball, or he must make a mark. If he does not break 8 with his first ball, he's going to need a mark.
Well, he's got 9.
Okay, Stacy, here's the situation. He has 2 balls to hit that pin.
We're all tied up right now, 150 apiece.
And believe me, the man wants to hit the pin with this ball. He does not want to wait for the 3rd ball. And he doesn't want to roll off. He does not want to time out.
He's got it.
There's your winner, folks.
The champion. Gene Fierlit has defeated Bill Honeycutt. It's just a matter of rolling off to add to his final score. He needed 1 pin. Needed 1 pin. He picked it up for a spare. Finishes here with a strike. 161.
Stacy, this is incredible. Just incredible. The match they bowled, Gene Fierlit bowled 16 games, and it went down to the last ball.
Gene Fierlit defeats Bill Honeycutt 161 to 150, wins the $2,000 first place. We'll be back right after these messages.
The good times always roll at Greenway Bowl East.
Here we are to give away the Pro-Am Adult Award, and here to give me the award away is Mr. Tim Sisk from Miller Beer and Bond Distributing Company, and we are now going to give Mr. George Economist, who won the Pro-Am, bowling a 459 scratch score. George? And his pros had a 479 with a total of 1,037. Turn around, George. There you go. We have a minute for a commercial, and then we're going to present the 5 awards.
When we return.
On behalf of Greenway Bowl East and Miller Highlight and Bond Distributing Company, we'd like to acknowledge the people behind the scenes, and that is my commentators, Mr. Stacy Carton and Mr. Joe Rainier. And also Caltech Corporations. Finishing in the 5th position and earning $325, Mr. John Crunckleton. Just lean over that one. Finishing the 4th position, earning $450, Mr. Vic Lancelotta. Finishing 3rd, earning $600, Mr. Ken Palmer. Finishing 2nd place and earning $1,000, Mr. Bill Honeycutt.
Go, Willie!
And running around here with bowling shoes from, I guess, Greenway East. Finishing in the 1st position, earning $2,000 and his beautiful trophy, Mr. Gene Fierlit. Gene, can you tell us something can impress everybody here why you did so good today?
I don't know. Come on. I had a little time off, but it was great to be back. I like bowling with these guys all the time.
Welcome back, Gino.
Thank you, Gene.
Welcome back, Gino.
Thank you, Gene.
The 4th annual Miller High Life Professional Duckpin Classic has been brought to you in part by Greenway Bowl East and by Miller High Life. Thank you for being with us today. We look forward to being with you when professional duckpin bowling comes your way again on KBL Sports, the leader in presentation of greater Baltimore area sports.